oh, they're testing relationship between Scav Karma and PMC Karma. Well, it's like, if the reward was that much, why would you not do it? You know what I mean? It's like, it's a no-brainer to do it. It's like, what
Yes.
is there to even test? Like,
But
come
this is
on,
the thing, right?
guys.
Like, and someone's actually said in chat exactly what I was going to say, which is that
Okay.
no one has ever done this like this in this way. And no one ever used those extracts except for the streamers, right? And this, once it's in the collective mind that the extracts are usable and you have done it,
The
it's happened before.
psychological
And I
effects.
think I actually think that there's a psychological effect
I
that
can
might
see
be being
that.
underestimated where it's just like,
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continued development of the game, passionate analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussion. I'm one of your hosts, Church. I do video editing and some content creation on the side.
I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber helping you to get better at the game that we know and love, Escape from Tarkov. And welcome back, everyone. And hi, Mr. Church. How's it going?
Going good, man.
Been
Going
up to this
great.
week? This has been very, very interesting week of
Very interesting.
shenanigans. Is really the only way that I can describe what has happened
I
here.
know, man.
I
This
mean,
brings me back. Do you remember that last one? Well, not our last, but there was a previous podcast where you were like, you know what? There's this saying that it's happening in Warzone. I looked it up. It's really cool. They should do like these lore-based events in EFT. It's a really cool way to engage the player base.
yep,
And you know what? They're heckin' doing it, man. They're heckin' doing it.
they actually are. And this is exactly because I think I even responded to one of the tweets basically being like, "This is insane." Like, I guess
Yeah,
we'll whip through everything, but just like, like the hand drawn letters and stuff like this, so like the community is like
yeah.
deciphering and stuff. Like, it's so good for the game. It is so good, right? And there's no reason why you can't just make these changes in the game and have something outside of the game to just like tantalize people. Like, there's no reason why you can't do it. It's not even that like it just takes a little bit of creative thought. It doesn't need to take too long, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's just it's great for people. They love it. Like, it engages the community. It's wonderful. So I'm having an absolutely fantastic time. So where we left off, I think last time, I think had so basically Killer had been added to Factory.
Killing
Right?
Factory. Yeah,
That's where we've been left off. That feels like a
that's
very
where we
long
left off.
time ago. I don't know
It
about you,
does, doesn't it? It does.
but that feels
It
like a
does
very long time
because
ago.
we went from kill at a factory to every scab boss from reserve,
Yeah.
and then we went to Odobolos, stim being Omega crazy buff, and then maybe also with that Sanitar and his guards just got like a million HP added to their pools. I don't know if that was an accident, like someone added one too many zeros or what, but that's a thing. And then what's after that? There was the scav shenanigans, the extracts,
Yeah.
right? Or no, no,
Yeah.
no. Sorry, I missed it. The Bitcoin got destroyed.
Yeah. As well.
It, the farm got destroyed. Then the scav shenanigans, right? The extracts where Vince gives you 100,000 USD,
Yep.
and now there's just fog, and we're currently stuck in a fog storm,
Exactly.
broadcasting to you live.
Exactly. So like, yeah, I was like writing stuff down like every day, just like a bullet, just like what's happened today, and it was just like, yeah, as you say, all the bosses added to reserve with the Prapor quest that I actually haven't completed. I don't know if anybody's like completed that one with like observe a boss meeting,
I think you
but
just have to survive the raid. That's what
oh,
I heard.
that's probably why I haven't completed it then.
Got him.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but then it was just like, yeah, because there's literally just one thing after another. It was like labs being free, which is that
Yeah.
was the thing that happened straight after. Gluhar's like broken into
Oh yeah, I
labs and
forgot
is
about
now
that.
free. And there was because
Yep.
that was from like a newspaper cutting. Right? And that was the first thing that I was like,
Yep.
oh, newspaper cutting. And like people are translating and they're just like, a group of, unidentified marked people have like broken into labs and they've left the door open. You go in, like Gluhar's there and he's just like messing stuff up. Just so, so, so good. And then even on that one, actually, there was like another point, which is the or maybe we'll talk about this later. Although I actually haven't messaged you purposefully about this, and maybe I will just bring it up now, actually. But it was like the extras,
Do
like
it.
inferred message in the end about like potentially someone like Black Division or whatever, and they like find the squad or whoever it was,
hmm
and they've had their like secure containers opened with a special tool.
Yeah.
That I was like, Church is going to have a field day because if people are opening secure containers, this is kind of like the end. Maybe this is the thin end of the wedge. You can have like a special tool, or maybe it's like a risk to AI or something. I don't know, but maybe the secure container isn't as secure after all. So it kind of brings that kind of like the fear into the game, and then it means that it's not completely risk free either. So that could have some interesting ramifications for kind of your thoughts on that element, because I know that you're basically obsessed with it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say it's because what they're doing is, like, they're leaving breadcrumbs for, like, future more lore/content stuff, you know what I mean? That was, like, a breadcrumb because it was, like,
Yeah,
written on the newspaper, like, what's the word where you, like, have a piece of paper on top of another paper and you write it was indented in,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
someone, like, shaded it or whatever. So, that was pretty interesting, but, yeah, I mean, if it's, like, something that you can, let's say it's an item, like, kinda like the multi-tool, and you can, like, break into containers, it just, like, opens up such a can of worms because now you have to alright, so let's say you kill a PMC, right? You go and loot his body, you see he's got a container slot, now you could, like, in theory, see what type of container it is, like, maybe you don't have to see what type of container it is, but now, let's say you have the item that allows you to open it, so then you open it, you do the animation. What happens to that player when he's dead? And he's like because you have to have, like, an instance of the body and the items that were in the container when the body was killed, and then you have to have a separate instance of that guy back in the stash with all of his
Yeah,
container items. So, like, it really complicates things. I don't even know.
I know.
I've
Well,
actually tried
sorry, go,
I
go,
was gonna
go.
say I've actually tried to come up with something like this to, like,
Mhm.
stop the profit from failure mechanic, but it ended up polarizing it even more, where, like, on one hand, you could get punished even more, and then on the other hand, you wouldn't get as good as reward for dying. So it,
Yeah.
like, didn't really change it didn't change the baseline, it just made it sort of just, like, shifted along the curve. It, like, made it worse for everyone in general.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way I was like, how could this even function? Like the first initial iteration that I had in my head was, you have a tool, you can buy it or whatever, like you obtain it in some way.
Sure.
It's got uses on it. You can't see into the container before you use the tool on it, and so maybe it's like very expensive, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, do I want to use it or not? And then I was like, okay, but how do you do this about the fact that the guy's dead, but he's taking his stuff back to his stash,
Right.
but it's in the raid? And I
Right.
was like, my first iteration was just like, who really cares? Like, item continuity doesn't really matter that much. Just make a clone of all of those things. And then
Well,
I was like,
that's the
then you could like
problem. You
exploit
start
that really hard, right?
yeah, that becomes a real
Yeah, like
problem.
instantly I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, so you could just go in with like 9 lead X's in a little square, kill your
Yeah.
buddy, open his container, he keeps all his lead X's, and you just like take them all out with the tool. I was like,
Alright.
maybe there's a better way of doing this. I don't know. So I'm not sure really what the implications are of that.
I
It's a weird one.
I think it's alluding to a mechanic, like an event maybe, where secure containers are just not like, you just can't bring them or
Yeah, they're like
something, maybe
banned
they're
or
just
something.
locked.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's kinda my thought on it. I don't think they're gonna go down that road because
Yeah.
I feel like if what you and I are kinda thinking, if they wanna do something like that, it just like I said, it just opens more problems, like, it's like it's yeah. Because then think about it too, if, like, that item that can break into c containers if it's, like, really rare and valuable, wouldn't you just keep it in your container to use it on other containers? Like, it's kinda weird. I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
you break into a guy's thing and you get another thing that can break into another container and just, like, keep cycling through all the different containers. It's just weird. It's just
Yeah.
too bizarre.
I don't really know how that's gonna go,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I don't really know. Um,
But you know what? If you I got something on this topic, alright? What since we're here, let's just go ahead and tackle it. So there was a podcast, a couple days ago. It was a all-female Russian podcast with Nikita on there,
I actually
and,
saw this going on, but obviously
you did?
I was
Okay.
like, I tuned in
Yeah,
for it
yeah,
a
yeah.
second and I was like, okay.
S so someone sent me the link of Easy translating it, and then later I got a link for the Reddit post translation, and I'll just read you one of my notes here. One of the things that stuck out to me was make sure I'm not moving you. They wanted to add new secure container, Armicon. It will be a 4 by 4 container, and you can put items only before the raid. and you can't take them out of the raid basically.
Okay,
And it's a 4x4,
fine. So
which
it's the biggest
is
container in the game,
yes, because Kappa's 4x3, right?
correct? And it's kind of then this works in the way that everybody wants it to. Well, not everybody, but there's a popular change that's been going around, pushed by Clean, but there's like a lot of people who've spoken about it, about this whole read-only secure container, which I guess this would be. I would probably, I mean, for me, a player like me, I would probably use that,
I
to
think
be
some
honest.
players would prefer it because people that want to get like sort of like stretch their dollar, like stretch their CMS kit, stretch their golden star. Golden star you probably always keep in there, but stretch their like grizzly because you could put a grizzly, a CMS kit, a golden star. That's like now you have 4 cells left open. You've taken up a total of 12 or 10, I guess. No, 12. Then you would
Yeah,
put probably like keys, and then I can't really think of anything else you put in there. Maybe a mag.
just ammo, just like stacks
Um,
of ammo.
yeah, and I could see that, but I feel like people it depend on like let's say I think the elites, if you will, are probably going to stick to kappas and gammas because you can, assuming everything's still the same, you could just quick swap mags in
Yeah,
because the mags is like they're the most expensive. Those drum mags are really expensive and the ammo in them, and
exactly.
it's just like I think you save more money that way. Like a serve 15 is only like well, when the market wasn't crazy, it was only like 35K
Yeah,
roughly for
exactly.
3 slots. Like it's really bad for slot efficiency. Like you could one a single cell bolt would replace the value of that you could use in your hideout to craft with.
Yeah.
Um so I feel like there would be like some players that might prefer it, but I unless it's like something easy to get, like epsilon in a sense, um, then maybe there'd be a point to it. But if it's like above Kappa, I don't see it being that popular.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you on that, honestly. It would have to be like kind of early-ish because otherwise, yeah, as you said, there's
Mhm.
not really any point. And like you want to be doing it when yeah, it's an interesting one because like when you're early on, you are trying to loot a lot of stuff. I mean, it's when I loot the most things. So I don't really yeah.
I mean, you couldn't put keys in there, you couldn't put Bitcoin, you couldn't put,
Yeah, as in
um
like keys that you find in the raid, right? You could
yeah,
put your own
yeah.
keys in there, but it's yeah, you don't
Right,
have anywhere to put
right.
anything else. And so with the alternative being that you can just slide these things, right on up there and they're worth a decent amount of money. It's yeah, it's not as
I don't
appealing.
I don't think it's enough of a trade-off to get an extra row for the inability to put items in there. That's kinda my thing is like
Maybe not. Because my initial opinion was just like, oh, I think I'd use that. And then like after thinking about it for a little bit, I'm like, maybe not. Because that's the thing, right? Just the little optionality of like finding like really
exactly,
anything to
the
put in
option.
there is like that
Yeah,
option is like actually really quite valuable, I think, and probably
yeah,
more valuable than just like yeah, saving a few extra things. Because as we said, right, how much other stuff are you taking into raid? Like yeah, maybe it's
right.
the stack of rounds, but yeah, the other things that you take, like a serve kit, like maybe an AFAC if you want to be like min maxing your slot value for meds. But like, how much are they? Again, like
Mhm.
25K, 30K for one thing, which are probably
Yeah.
better than the CMS Serve 12. But yeah, it's just yeah, it's tricky because I guess you take in stuff that's like utility. Like one of my favorite things about the secure container though in that respect is that if I had to rebuild it every time because I'm like taking stuff in and out, I
Mhm.
inevitably forget to bring something important
Yeah,
as I'm
yeah,
moving stuff in
yeah.
and out. I almost, what I should do is I should take a little screenshot once I've finished my loadout and just keep it somewhere and be like, right, have I got all the things that I should take with me? Because these days, like, it's inevitable that I forget like an extra probital, or I've got like, oh, I've used the
Yeah.
mule in one game and then I
Oh,
forget
yeah.
to buy another one, and then I'm like loaded
Yep.
down with 70 kilos, and I'm like, let me just use my, and there's like nothing in there. There's like another stack of rounds because I was like, oh, what do I normally put in there? I don't know. Put another stack of M905 in there, and then I'm just like trying to move like sluggishly across the map, just like I regret everything.
Yeah.
And that's just yeah, that's the way. So maybe I do need to just screenshot that. But yeah, I don't know. That sounds like it's a cool idea. But I'm not sure. Yeah, as you say, maybe it would be worth it. Like if you're alpha and you can get it really early, and it's like a huge container, you can keep like tons of stuff in. Then fine.
Maybe.
But yeah, like you using the security container like for a read-only thing is more about like survival and PvP and fighting than it is about looting. But obviously, because you can't put stuff inside, so it's like who is using that? And as you say, if people are able to just like butt switch their mags around, that's like of huge value anyway. So I don't
And
know.
then not only that, but if you get something, valuable you can put in the container. Like, you kill a raider, you get a labs key card. Like, back when labs wasn't free, that was just like, oh my, it's like I didn't spend anything. I could put this in my docs case or whatever. Like, it's I don't know. It's
Exactly.
I feel like the trade off is just not enough.
Yeah.
You'd have to give me like 8 slots, and even then, what could I? There's not even enough things I could use
What
in
about
there. Like,
what about a container that's the size of the thick items case, but it's read only? Would you use it then? Would you use it then,
but
Church? It's just
oh
huge.
wait,
You have your
maybe
you just take your
because then
whole
you could put
stash.
armor in there.
Oh, there you could put that's actually that is the sort of next level. But I mean, I guess you could
If
put
they
like
unlocked it, I guess
yeah.
you can't put gear in there.
I wonder though, yeah, if
That's the
you have
thing.
like
You can't really
face
put.
visors or whatever, you know.
Well, you can't.
Be like the
It
ultimate PvP thing. Can you put visors in?
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, you put visors in. Don't
You
know.
can't put gear. They locked that
Yeah, I can't remember because I never really
a
tried,
while
so
ago.
I don't know.
That's the thing. You really can't put much. They've already put some restrictions on there.
Yeah. Hmm. We'll see. We'll see. Well, so that was from the female
That
streamer
was
podcast.
yeah. I just wanted to tie that in because I felt like that was relevant to
That
the
is
subject we
interesting.
were heading.
That is
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, oh my God, there's just honestly there's so much.
I know, dude.
So Bitcoin? Bitcoin next?
Yeah, that was super interesting. Another little breadcrumb, dude. TarbankCoin?
Oh, wait, Bitcoin.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So what did Mechanic say? He basically said Bitcoin has got really hard to mine
Yes.
because I can't remember the reasoning, but anyway, like that does
His
happen.
GPUs are breaking,
And his
I
GPUs is
think is
like
another thing.
breaking. He's like working them too hard or something, and he needs to.
Mhm.
That's what the whole barters came up for GPUs. He's like bartering GPUs for
Right.
all kinds of useless junk and thermals, which are out of stock continuously. Um,
Yeah.
that's like it seems to be how it's gone. It's just like, yeah, you can barter for all these things you might not want, and then one for thermal, by the way, and everyone's just like thermal, mine, thermal, and they're just all gone. I've not been able to barter for a single one. Um,
Yeah.
So that's quite cool. But like, I think they're like, are they trying to like bait everybody into removing all their cards from the GPU farm? I don't know. Like, I've spent
This
so
oh my
long
god,
getting all
dude.
my cards in the farm. There's no way I'm gonna remove them. There's no chance, even if it's
You
like
still
100 hours. So like, it's nuts.
yeah. I mean, it like I think Airwing did the math for like the gray fuel tanks. It takes like if you have a max hideout, max skills, and max solar power, like everything's max. With 50 cards and 1 Bitcoin, it costs 1 whole gray fuel and like a third of the next gray fuel.
Yeah.
So like, 100 fuel plus 33 fuel.
So it's probably about the price.
It it like you barely make a profit, probably like a couple 20K rubles or something. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh man.
But if
But
you're running
the
the rest of the
thing,
hideout, it's like doesn't really. I mean,
yeah.
this is a moot point for topics that we will discuss in a minute, I'm sure. But anyway, like it's weird, and I don't know what this Tarbank coin actually means. Like whether you're going to be able to mine
Mhm.
that instead. I think like the most popular opinion that I've seen out there is that people are saying that they think they will just wholesale replace it with the Bitcoin with this Tarbank
Yes.
coin instead, so they can like keep control of the price and they can do what they want with it rather than it being like linked to actual real world Bitcoin, which I think like kind of makes sense. I mean, I don't see any issues with that. It's funny that we can't do anything with it. They've said it, and there's nothing out there at the moment for it, and we're just kind of stuck there with like the nerfed farm, nerfed to like crazy oblivion. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, we're
I
gonna
think
just
it's
see.
twofold. I think they've come to that conclusion, and I think they wanted to sort of disrupt the economy in a sense with the
Mm,
Bitcoin, because that was just a guaranteed passive income for anyone that put in the work and effort and the cost. You're just guaranteed to make your money back and then make profits. So I think they wanted to kind of stop that um,
thing is, right?
in conjunction.
My personal opinion on it, though, is that they're not going to leave it like this forever, right? So they're going to do something that's going to
Yeah,
maybe
they're
Tarban
definitely
Coin will be
gonna.
like 100K or something. So, but I feel like it's not
Yeah,
going to be like this, right? They won't have invested all that time in making the Bitcoin farm kind of the end thing, and then not just like
right.
basically kind of just to delete it. Like it's not. I just don't
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
really going to happen. But maybe maybe it'll be the price of this thing will go up down whatever. There'll be like more opportunities to try and do something rather than just being like I go to hideout, I put fuel in, I take a coin out, and I sell it to therapists. Like
right.
maybe there'll be other stuff that you can do with it that'll be cool and interesting and engaging, rather than just like no brainer. Because that's the problem with Bitcoin, right? It's kind of a no brainer. It either works or it doesn't.
Right.
And when it doesn't work, it's just like nothing. And when it does work, it's just free cash. And so it's not really like an engaging mechanic. It's just kind of free money, free
Yeah.
reward for people, which is fine. Um, it's fine, but I guess we'll see. I do kind of like the baiting though of oh, take your GPUs out and go and barter them for some lovely things. Oh, off you go. I
Yeah.
just can't bring myself to do it. I just can't. I actually just can't.
Let's see what happens. I my hopes is that like we said, the Bitcoin has its own price that they can control and not have to rely on the fluctuating of the real world market, like they'll unlink that and then hopefully GPU durability might be interesting. But then again, when that's sort of like the old mentality of wipeless Tarkov. So
Yeah,
so now I'm like, I just don't know what's happening at BSG, man. It's like I was like, spending time thinking this one way, and then it's like, no, we are going to do it this way now. It's like, well, fuck.
exactly. Well, the thing is though, right, so I actually was about to say that and lost my trail of thought halfway through talking about something else. But when I read the message from Mechanic, I was like 90% sure that I was going to go in the game and all my GPUs would have durability on them. I was really certain based on the way that it was written. And then I was like surprised, genuinely surprised that it wasn't there because he was like, "Oh, my graphics cards were wearing out and stuff." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the beginning of durability for these GPUs." And then you just go in and it's just like 100 hours later. You're like, oh, okay, that's what they've done. Fine. That sort of makes sense. But I really did think that was going to be the beginning of durability because they've spoken about it before, and it's almost seems to be not a wasted opportunity, but maybe they're going to do it at another time. They've got other plans for it. I don't know. I don't know. But I really thought that was going
Yeah,
to come in then, just because of the way it was worded. But we'll still wait and see on that and see what they're going to do with it. So I don't know.
let's see.
I don't know. I don't know. Right. What next? There's like okay, so
Well,
the other
let's.
big things, I guess.
You want to talk
Sanitar?
about the fence stuff? I'm not really.
You
All right,
okay with
I'll say
Sanitar?
this. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about it last time a little bit, not about Santar, but just like boss HPs
Mm.
and stuff. I don't know if it's a bug, if it's a feature, what. I think it's ridiculous, but I that's all I got.
Yeah, I think it's a bit silly with the health thing, and we did talk about the last time. I mean, in terms of the actual stim, I think the stim is funnier, and it's kind of more like more
Yeah,
noteworthy because I like the ongoing like lore development of it, where they were just like, oh, it's the cocktail, and
right.
I was like, oh, I think that's the Doubler's one because it says like the cocktail on it when you try and pick it up, and it's always been kind of like very average, and it does random effects and all this kind of stuff, and it's super cool. They've gone like, oh, here's the letter, and everyone's translating it, and blah blah blah, like drop it off in a
Yeah,
secret
yeah,
place, and he's
for
like,
sure.
develop this thing, and it turns you into like Omega Chad for like 15 minutes if it doesn't kill you outright with like the 20% chance. It's just super, super funny. It's like not like it's not like a meta-y thing. It's just hilarious. It's just like 20% chance that you die, and
Yes.
then for 15 minutes you can just be like, the god amongst men, and then after that you also die. I just love
Yeah,
that. It's just so funny. Like it's got no real practical implication for the game, but I just think it's fantastic because like the game is about Terra Group, it's about experimentation, and it's about these stims and stuff like what they were doing there and potentially
sure.
creating I don't know what, right? Super soldiers or who knows, like some kind of like sort of almost like near science fiction kind of thing. Like it's sort of borderline medical biotechy research of some description, but we don't really know exactly what. And this kind of gives us like the first few tantalizing like pieces of proper lore and like developments in the game that kind of give you an idea of like what might have been going on, and who Sanitar exactly is and that kind of thing. I'm really excited for the
Yeah.
story, honestly. I'm
The
really excited for
story
the story,
absolutely.
and this kind of
The
thing,
story stuff,
yeah, makes me happy for it.
yeah. I just can't help feel like they're like, "Right, we're gonna do events. What's the most extreme thing we can do? Every scav boss on reserve. Let's go." And then Twitter's just like exploded and everyone's like, "Oh, snap, dude, you gotta check out Tarkov." And then like it's fun for like, the first couple of hours, and then it's like kinda like the stem. It's like, "Oh, this is fun for
Yeah,
like the first couple hours," and it's kinda like so I almost feel like in some ways, I don't know I can only like guess what's going behind, but in some ways I feel like they're doing these like extreme content things to sort of like drive interest back in the game
Yeah.
and sort of like building up to this patch slash wipe slash whatever the fuck's going on.
Exactly.
So
I actually had about the reserve bosses thing. I actually had like a theory. So last time, I said about the factory thing. I was like, I think they've implemented Killer there to test out the Tagilla AI,
right,
because it
right.
would be a great opportunity to do that and just put it in Killer himself and do something like that to try and like fix it, whatever. I was like, I don't actually think this is necessarily what's happening, but putting all of the scab bosses on reserve, I was like, how many actually is that? If it's like everybody, it's like, Sturman and his two dudes,
5.
you've got like Killer, then you've got Rushala and his guys, you've got Glueheart and his guys, Sanitar and like his guys. There's like, that's a lot of people. And then all the PMCs. And I was like, I just had a thought occur to me. I was like, I wonder if it's close to 40. I just wonder if the total of all of the
Mhm.
sort of like, complicated AI and PMCs is somewhere close to 40, almost as if it could be a test for streets of some kind. I don't know. I like that was the only thing that crossed my mind. I don't think that's necessarily true, but the servers seriously have to get more loaded up for this kind of thing because they've said before that
Well,
scavs there's not as many because they hit performance. So I feel like maybe again a lot of these things are like cool events that they're actually doing like tests on the underlying code architecture, networking, like that various those various
yeah.
things, and then also obviously like they're going to have different AIs on or different bosses, I should say, on different maps, and so they want to make sure that they don't all just like stand there shooting in the air like Sturman's just like shooting pigeons or something, because he's not on woods or all that
Mhm.
kind of thing. So I don't know, it might be like a double-edged thing where they're like testing all sorts of stuff, and I think it's great. I actually think it's great that they just do like random things. Honestly, I think lots of people have been saying this for ages, especially people who play a lot and are very invested in like the development of the game. Just do random stuff because people will just like everyone will go wild and like as long as it's not stupid, like people will kind of love it and it's just something different. And it's something to talk about. And it's just kind of hilarious to like be in this apocalyptic wasteland of like chaos, like random stuff's happening. It's like insane.
At the end of the interest cycle, yes, this is like it worked. It got me to play launch Tarkov and play,
Yeah,
you know. Um at the beginning, oh my god, if you do this, I would be so fucking pissed. If you
yeah,
turn fog on in a million at the start of the I will uninstall the game, dude. Fuck that.
yeah.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Yeah, early
But
wait.
that's kind of my point. It feels so extreme.
Mm,
It feels
and
so
it is.
extreme. I'm a little concerned about because I like the concept, but I would like to see that throughout a normal life cycle. Just not to the
Yeah.
extreme. Like this is way too extreme, dude.
I agree. I agree,
Like
but I think it's okay at this time, depending on whether you think there's going to
yeah.
be a wipe or not, right? And it's a big, it really depends. It really depends on that. And I'm still, I
All
have
right,
to
well,
say,
before we talk about wipe,
okay.
let's talk about the fence reward.
All right,
Have you done it?
8 times.
I love it. I love
I've
it.
not been able to play that much else, but I figured out a way that I can basically do it without really having to be doing very much, which is great because like in like especially these weeks, I've not really had a huge amount of time in the week, but you can pretty much do it like not risk free. Like it has not worked sometimes, but it's honestly it's been hilarious. It's actually been hilarious. So like my experience with this event, I think
Yeah.
that okay, so I think that this one is an absolute masterstroke. I think it's an
Master
absolute
stroke.
masterstroke. This
What's a
thing
master stroke?
like it's like brilliance. It's like pure genius
Okay. Okay.
because it's basically like right. So before we even talk about the actual event itself, conceptually,
Okay.
you say to people, "We're going to have an exit that's got scavs and PMCs on it," and everyone goes, "Boo, that's useless. What's the point of that?" And they go, "Oh, well, you're going to get some rewards if you do it," and everyone's like, "Boo, that's useless. Like, when am I ever going to do that? It's not even going to work. I'm just going to die. It doesn't even make any sense." And if the reward's like really super good, it's not going to work at all. And the kid is just like, "Well, how about we just make it like 16 mil? How about that? Is that enough? Is that enough to make you do it?" And basically, the first bit, right? Because I was just like going into raids and like trying it out and just like seeing. It did seem to me the way that it developed over time was basically like everybody's kind of like going to because I did it all. I've done it all on reserve, only on reserve. I've not played any of the other maps
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm.
People are just like the PMCs are kind of like tentatively like turning up. So the first time I was like, surely the other PMCs are going to kill me, right? Because they're just there's no reason why they shouldn't. Um, And so I did actually feel quite bad. I sniped someone with the VPO. Who was like sat down in that bit, and then I was like, actually, this is dumb because we can all get the reward. This is silly because I didn't really know how it
Yeah.
worked, right? And I got one of my shootable in heavens. But anyway, uh, so I was like, okay, so I like went down there, but it's like everyone's just like super tentative, like, oh, I don't know, like this is really weird or whatever. And then like maybe a scav turns up and everyone's just like shuffles around, whatever. Three attempts in, and it's just like 7 hatchlings in the thing, just waiting to get the money.
Yep.
I was like, wow, this
Yeah.
like the player behavior changed so fast, right? 3 more raids after that, people are already bored, and like you are in
Yes.
the area with the 5 other hatchlings, and there's like 1 or 2 people who are like far away, like sniping people in that
Yes.
zone, right? And that then there's like two or so more raids after this. Like this is like over a period of like hours, right? This is over a period of like 12
Yeah.
hours. Towards the end of that period, you just get like scavs coming around the corner, trolling people, shooting PMCs in the exit because everyone's kind of bored of it, right? They can just make 12 mil or
Yeah.
16 mil whenever they want. How much is it again? I can't remember. This is 100,000 rubles. It's like, yeah, it's 100, okay, this is 12 and a half mil. Um, and you can make 12 and a half mil whenever you want. So the novelty's worn off. So people are just like walking in, vogging like six hatchlings with a
Right.
grenade. Like
Right.
it's so weird to see how this kind of player behavior is just like developed over time. Everyone being super cautious and everyone working together, making loads of money and being like, well, now that I've done it like 5 times and basically made 50 million, like, well, now it's just kind of like whatever. And it's just, it's just free cash and everyone's got infinite money anyway. So why does this even matter? And then people are just like
Exactly.
trolling people in the exit and it's just like complete bedlam. Like the number of times when I ended up going, um, so the way that, sorry, I am going on like just
It's
a bit
fine.
of a monologue, but like the way that I ended up doing it after like trying it a few times was I was like, okay, I did it
Hmm.
as scav, and I was like, well, I turn up as scav with like 10 minutes left. There's like no one else really like there might not
Yeah.
be a PMC there,
Did you
and
go interchange?
I didn't go interchange now. I literally
Oh,
only did
okay.
reserve. So I was like, I
Oh,
did
that's
scav,
right. You said that. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, I'm gonna try this. So I did it, and I was like, I'm not really sure it's gonna work. I tried one at like 35 minutes, and that was okay because there was some PMCs there. And I tried it again at like 20 minutes, and no one was there. And I was like, I'm not sure. So I was like, right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play it as PMC because the PMCs are kind of in more short supply, especially later on towards the end. Scavs are going to spawn all the way through the match so long as I'm still there as PMC. So I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to get an extract at some stage. So what I was doing was basically just like going with something like very, very budget, very mediocre, getting close to the to that extract and just like chilling and just like lying down somewhere and then going to do something else. And then I basically wait for the timer because I think the scavs can spawn after like it's usually about 35 minutes is kind of like the earliest you can spawn as a scav, I think, on reserve, which is early. But I was basically waiting between like 35 minutes and 25 minutes, something like that, and then just picking my PMC up and then running across, going hold fire, hold fire, hold fire, and then standing behind like the little thing and just waiting for scavs to turn up. And that seemed to work like pretty much every time because like the first and the last couple, seriously, the final couple, there was just like people everywhere, just like dead bodies. Like it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
There was one so there's one raid that was super weird, and one guy had like killer's full kit on him, the drum mag and 260s of Igolnik. There was like a fort armor. There was like stuff everywhere. There's like a huge PMC fight, and I stood there for like 15 minutes going, guys, hold fire, hold fire. Anybody? No one. And ended up just like taking all these people's stuff and just limping out of D2 with like 80 kgs on my back. Because like no scouts turned up. And I waited until like 5 minutes. That was the only
Wait,
one that wasn't successful.
they killed each other,
Yeah, I don't know what
or did you?
happened. I think they all killed each other. I'm not sure. Well,
Oh, you just came there
I
and
just
there
came,
was a bunch
yeah,
of
because I
bodies.
came there like 35
Oh,
minutes and everybody
yeah.
was dead. It was a wasteland. It was insane. And it was only that one
That's
raid that was
funny.
really like that. And then I saw like there was another one like towards the end, and this is why I was like seeing the kind of development. There was a scav who came around the corner and was just like shouting scav lines, and it was like five PMCs in the thing, and I actually had brought some gear because I usually do. I like to be able to defend myself. And this guy pulls out like one of the VOG 17s and throws it into the thing, and I was just like, oh shit! I like jump forwards. He's like starts taking pot shots of people, and I just like take him out with the with my 74M. And then like extract with like some other friendly player scavs who like came around the corner. But I was like, this is just getting wild. This is getting completely insane. But I I really enjoyed myself, and I absolutely love getting paid by Fence. It's so good, and yeah, I'm addicted. I'm addicted. That's my TED talk. Thanks for coming. Have you done that extract?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love it because I go hatchling,
Yep.
empty secure container, 1 ruble in each pocket. I go loot on my way there to the extract, and then I AFK and work on a project.
Yeah.
And then I come back and I get money. I mean, I would probably prefer if they just gave us the money instead of me just kinda gamifying the system, you know? Because either someone's gonna come and kill me or there's a scav that's gonna walk up and just extract with me because 'cause we're both getting paid.
Quite
And then
like
it's like,
you have
I
to do
understand why
it.
people. Huh?
I like that you have to actually go and do it. I love that.
Yes, but I would say at the same time, there's a large part of player base that the money really doesn't matter, you know? So
True.
it's like, the incentive isn't really like, it was like you said, it sorta, like, did this whole curve where it goes up, and then it's like, at first people are like, "No, no, no, no. Yes, 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 and no, 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 no," because then it's like, who really gives a fuck when because now I have to spend 30 minutes buying MP5s and selling them to mechanic to get some money back. It's just like, oh man, like if they wanted to like give money, why or like how they done in the past where they just like, okay, this is a pre-wipe event. We're gonna lock all the traders, everything's like basically for free, have fun. It's just like, I don't know, it's weird. And then like if you go down the road of like, oh, they're testing relationship between Scav Karma and PMC Karma. Well, it's like if the reward was that much, why would you not do it? You know what I mean? It's like it's a no-brainer to do it. It's like, what
Yes.
is there to even test? Like,
But
come
this is
on,
the thing, right?
guys.
Like, and someone's actually said in chat exactly what I was going to say, which is that
Okay.
no one has ever done this like this in this way, and no one ever used those extracts except for the streamers, right? And this, once it's in the collective mind that the extracts are usable and you have done it,
The
it's happened before.
psychological
And
effects.
I actually think that there's a psychological effect
I
that
could
might
see
be being
that.
underestimated, where it's just like scav karma is coming. Here's a huge incentive to work together because this is just what it feels like when you're sat around with a bunch of other PMCs or a bunch of scavs or whatever, and you're not shooting at each other. This is how it feels, and this is without VoIP or
Mhm.
anything like that. But it's just like it's possible, guys. Like if the reward is good enough, you will do it. We're going to put some rewards in that's going to
Yeah.
incentivize you. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think like it's about training the player base and player behavior in some way to do other things because it's not going to be as simplistic as this. I don't think, right? The way that they want people to work together, it's not going to be just like stand in the extract with scavs and then just get paid money, right? It's not going to be like that, but it's starting to try to encourage the right player behavior that they want. I almost feel like in some ways you do need to just like jump start it in some way, right? Like it's not this emergent player because of the way the game has developed up until now. This emergent player behavior isn't just going to arrive at this stage because of the starting point. So if you started completely fresh, it might actually just end up in a nice place if you have VoIP and all that stuff to begin with in a completely fresh game. But because of where Tarkov has come from and the kill on site mentality and all of that stuff, you have to then like
Yeah.
retrain the players to not do
Well,
these things first, which is kind of what I think this is partly about. It must be. It absolutely must be. Which is why I think it's a masterstroke because they want people to work together for Scavcom and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's good. It's the first time people are actually properly working together, not just shooting each other. Like it's definitely the first time for me. I mean, as a solo player, you just kill everybody, and this is fun. It's just it's different. It's exciting. It's interesting. I enjoy the process of making money, even if I've got tons of money. So it doesn't really matter for me. I find it fun anyway. Um, so I think it's good. I think it's good. I feel like it's bringing the community together too. People are just like having a fun time and joking around, and then getting frustrated because people are like AGSing them from the grenade launcher and just killing everyone in the extract and stuff. It's like it's
did you
shenanigans. It's
see?
full shenanigans. It's super funny.
I'll link you a video that I edited a thing for Arrowing where he murders a group of PMCs and scavs at the
I did see that one actually.
reserve.
I did
Yeah.
see
Oh my god, it was horrible. Yeah, I don't know, man. My thing is like I the the I think I've sort of like pinpointed an issue is that the reason why we need a wipe is not for the economy, it's for the progression in the game, right? Those permanent things, such as your stash, that's a permanent thing. Your hideout, that's a permanent thing. Your traders you unlock, that's like you can't go back. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? You can't like lose that progression. So once everyone reaches the progression, your incentives like really start diminishing to like participate in the game
yeah,
and in certain things like money. If money's not a problem, if gear's not a problem, then you're kind of not incentivized to go out and find those things. And this is why it kind of dawned on me that Rust has wipe cycles because it has blueprints where you sort of like learn how to craft something. But if the game cycle goes on too long and everyone can craft everything, and then it sort of like reduces the meaningful in progression, I guess. So they sort of like, because it's a permanent thing, you can't unlearn the ability. They do this wipe cycle. And this is why back in the day I used to think, man, if Tarkov just wiped like every 3 months, it would be like such a great experience. And I feel like the incentives for people to work together would be great if we were on this sort of like more consistently cycled wipe, you know? And we wouldn't even have to have like a crazy reward. The reward would be, hey man, we can work together and like try to get out of this raid and survive. You know what I mean? Just to like progress, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like if there's if if the karma system comes out, like PMC karma comes out with like scav karma and like the extracts, past like a X amount of months in the wipe, I don't know if it's gonna be like an incentive for a lot of people to do that anymore. We're just gonna go back to shooting each other on labs and bunny hopping around corners, you know? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I
That's
think
I've sort of like
yeah, it's just the weird thing about it is the weird thing about like late white Tarkov, and that's the thing. It's just like how do they bring that end game in to stop people from just because that's the thing. Like we've said before, all there is to do is PvP at the end, and that's why like who's going to work together when you're just trying to look for PvP and shoot each other. But I think that's kind of what arena is supposed to be for. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of mix these two things together, and then also keep the main base game replayable enough and give people enough incentives. Because as you said, people lose their the incentives to play because they've got all the progression that they need, and what else is there to do other than just going and shoot people? And Nikita says himself that
right.
there isn't end game content in the game right now. It's a wipe to wipe cycle, not really a game loop, so to speak. But I do think that it's interesting how Tarkov is like super super hard, but these permanent features there's actually quite a lot of them all over the place. As you said, the stash, the hideout, that kind of thing. And there's continuously upgrading your stuff, and like the game is just super hard to get into at first. But once you kind of crack it, then it just kind of like it then comes sort of more naturally from there. Like the hard part about EFT is like the initial learning curve. It's like the first
Yeah, the
year
learning
of like
curve.
the learning curve in the first
Yeah.
place, like learning how to make money. And I've argued before about how I think it's like slightly unintuitive because there's like mechanics like the stashes mechanic, which is just like just don't really work for new players. And there's like lots of like specific things you need to know like that, which help, and certain things of like well the way the quests are done. Like once you've gone through all the quests one time, then the whole game is so much easier. So it's like how do you fix that? How do you like make it wipe every 3 months but not have the quests be boring because people don't want to complete those even more, right? People complain already about having to complete them every single wipe. If you wiped every 3 months, you had to do all the same quests again. Like man, people will get so sick of that, even more so than they are now. So there needs to be like a better game loop to actually make this function. Which Nikita's aware of, and he's going to be working on. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. It's you need those incentives, and I think like as you said, the incentive to work together kind of really realistically right now would come at the beginning of the wipe because we're not just all shooting each other. That's when you're trying to actually get
Right.
the progression itself. You're running in, you've
Yeah.
both got good loot, and you say, guys, I'm friendly. I'm just trying to get out of this raid, whatever. Like that's when the VoIP's actually useful because people aren't just like mass wanting each other continuously and on every single map and not caring about the money because they've got like millions and millions of rubles, whatever. That's when people are like building up still. Every raid matters. Every individual item that you can get out is another step in progression that you've got up to, whatever you're trying to do in the hideout or quests or whatever. And so that's when like the progression does matter, and that's when people are most incentivized to play together, to work together, to try and not just kill each other. So it's funny. It's almost like inverted, isn't it? It's like it's better at the start for that, and then ends up at the end. It's just like no one bothers because all there is left to do is shoot each other because that's kind of like it's all there is to do. It's all there is to do at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. It's remains to be seen really how exactly that's going to go. But
Because they're gonna do seasonal and then a permanent account, and I just cannot for the life of me see me ever wanting to play the permanent account,
yeah,
like, at
I,
all.
I mean, they said that it's going to take a lot longer, but like, I don't feel like that necessarily fixes the problem. It just makes it more grindy and take 10 times longer to get to the same result, unless they do something
Yeah.
radical in how they change it. But it's interesting. I mean, I really do think that
Be
that we need to think more about like other RPG mechanics and like these concepts about like permanence and other things are like they're quite important. It's like what's weird, right? So like You're making me think now, which is yeah, double-edged sword. But you might take a game that's like a normal RPG.
Yeah.
The things that you then have um, that are permanent are kind of like your loadout, I suppose, is always permanent in like traditional RPG, so to speak, unless it's like a roguelike
Right.
type game.
Sure.
But the permanence in EFT is like your stash and your hideout and everything. But that doesn't really exist in the other games like Rust or DayZ or whatever, because then you can just be raided whenever, and it's more about
You
like
could
trying to
wake up.
hide your base. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like trying to put together,
But in
pieces
a
of all these
sense,
things.
that is a soft reset because if you wake up and your base everything's gone, you still have the blueprints you learned. So you haven't completely lost all your progression. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I've lost 90% of my progression, but I still have this 10% of progression. And like that progression to get like to memorize those blueprints and like they cost the certain amount of like you gotta find the thing that you want to learn, then you gotta research it and that costs a resource. And then you can learn it and then it's like permanent.
Yeah.
So there's still an incentive to play, even though you like got heavily punished for not, staying up 48 hours a week or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's
One
yeah.
yeah, one thing that I've been thinking about that I actually find is troubling, and
Okay.
I can't square this circle. So the main the main game mechanic towards in most of these like RPG in the more RPG style games, right, is like you run bosses, a raid, a dungeon, whatever it might be. And there's with the replayability because you're going for a particular drop or something, like whatever that objective might be. I mean, I always end up going
Mhm.
back to Diablo 2 because it's the one I know the best. But you either there's something that you need to get like X number and they combine together, or there's like randomized stats on particular items, and so you're going for the best thing. The issue with EFT is that because of the impermanence of your loadout, there's no way to make that mechanic actually function. This is actually the core mechanic of replayability for a lot of RPG games, which is that like you always keep your kit on you and you run the thing over and over and over again because the best kit is out there in the wild, and you're running like bosses or whatever so that you can then like slowly increase your gear or like get right up to like the top RNG rolls on all the stats on this thing if it's like strength or accuracy and blah blah blah. And there's like three things and they all roll when it drops in the first place to get one that's perfect on each one. If it's like there's a scale from like 2 to 12 or whatever on each one, to get a 12 12 12 is like super rare. That's what people run the things over and over for. That is a core game mechanic for a lot of these sort of roguelike RPGs.
Mhm.
It just doesn't work in EFT because like why would you run Rashala or Killer or whoever like 100 times to get like a perfect AK when you're going to die in like two raids? So it's like the impermanence of your loadout actually breaks that mechanic and makes it not usable, which I think is a shame because it's kind of like it's one. I don't know, and this is the thing. I actually don't have an answer for this because this is one of the reasons why there is no end game really, because you buy you buy everything from the traders, and I've talked about this before as well. In that, like, I think some way that you fix it is making more stuff like in raid that you actually have to go and get yourself. I think we have discussed this in the past, but it's almost like right now it's everything's kind of the wrong way around. It's all inverted. It's like your loadout is at risk, but nothing else is, which means that your loadout is actually the least
Right.
valuable thing that you have on you. What is valuable is your actual hideout, and there's no point
Yeah.
going into the world to go and get items because you can buy the best in slot gear from the merchant in town. So why would you go
Yeah.
and raid any of the dungeons really? Because you can
W
buy all of the
what
best gear in the game from the dude who stood right next to your stash. So
w
it's
you
just
can
weird.
take anything and convert it into the thing you really want.
Yeah,
Is that kinda what you're yeah.
kind of,
So
but
why
also the
would you
fact that like you can convert it into the thing you want like without going anywhere, which hopefully will be fixed if there's finding raid
that's
traders and that kind of
part of
stuff.
it.
But
You do have to go to get that ability, you do have to go and progress. Like, you have to enter a raid at some point,
you
you
do,
know?
you do, you do, you do, you do.
But your the point still stands once you have the systems in place and or once you loot anything, or in addition, you can loot anything and turn it into cash, which you can use to buy that golden AK drop from Rashala. So I kinda see what you're saying. I mean, you have a point there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just like I don't.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just like how do you square? Like how do you make people want to go and play? That's the thing. Like how do you make people just want to go and play? And it's like
maybe everything shouldn't be accessible 24/7. I don't know. That's that
yeah,
seems like a pretty
There's
I
a
wanna
like
get the really good ammo. I have to go and raid and find it, maybe? I don't know.
I
Just
don't
a
know.
crazy thought.
There's like another thing that I was thinking as well, right? Which is just like, why do we care? And like, I actually don't necessarily have answers to these. I've been very, very thoughtful recently.
Mm. Ooh, this is good.
Why do we care that all there is to do at the end is to kill people when we don't care in CS and we don't care in DayZ and we don't, well, not DayZ, actually, that's a bad example, and PUBG and other like competitive shooters? Why do we care in EFT that that's all there to do? Is that just because we kind of expect there to be an RPG element because that's kind of the way the game is? It's not just a competitive shooter. Because like, no one complains about the fact that there's like, you go into the Counter Strike game and you shoot some people and then you leave. I don't know. Like, what's the difference? I mean, I can think of some
I
small
mean, I feel
things,
like
like, but it's just like end game isn't even a concept in
yeah,
those
no.
games. And so maybe
They're
that's just
completely different,
yeah. Is that
in
just
my
like a
opinion.
perception difference? It's like, oh, you've been building up all this time, you've been playing for however long, and you finally get good at the game, and then you get to the end, and you're just like, okay, what next? Whereas like that never really happens in like PUBG or anything that's kind of arena based because it's like you start, you go through, you get your stuff, and it's just like PUBG is actually almost a roguelike, actually, in some ways. You start with nothing, and then you get some stuff on the way through, and you get the best things you can, and you try to win, and then you either win or you
Mhm.
lose, and then you start again. It's actually very similar to a roguelike mechanic in some sense.
A bit, yeah. I mean, you don't keep any progression for the next time, besides what you learned,
But
but,
you
like,
don't
the
but you
loot
don't
in
really do that
game.
in roguelikes either, no? Like
Some you do.
proper like
There's a
hardcore style roguelikes. I mean, like ones like things like Faster Than Light and stuff, where like once you get to the end, you it's completely finished, and then you start right back at the beginning again. And yeah, there is some element of like some things you can keep, whatever, but like mostly it's about your knowledge and how you play.
yeah, I don't know enough to comment accurately. I think there is a difference. There's also Rogue Lite, Lite,
Mm.
or Li yeah,
I
Lite,
think
and
it
then
is
Rogue
LIT.
Like,
Yeah.
Like. There's a difference between the 2. I don't know. I looked it up a while ago, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll use CS:GO because I'm most familiar. For CS:GO, you're sort of like the game incentivize you to get better at its mechanics because you're assuming you're playing ranked, you're basically playing for a how good you are score, you
Yeah.
know? "Oh, I'm this good at the game."
Hmm.
So, you're not you don't really care about killing people. You honestly, some people describe, like, these competitive games as they're not fun because you're not really playing for the fun of it, you're playing for your ego of it, and this is, like, a huge psychological problem, actually. Um, like, you have, like, rank ladder anxiety, there's, like I mean, I went through in Dota 2 so much. Man, those were really dark days, dude, let me tell you what. But, yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know, I just feel like they're kinda on 2 different planes, if you will. Like, one's way more about a score that says how good you are, and you're sort of, like, incentivized to increase that score, whereas the other one's like, you're directly incentivized to get the progression within the game itself, not
Yeah.
like some score, like actual that's like the content or the fun of it all, I guess. I don't know. Like, oh, it's like the loot box thing. Like, oh my god, I got this really rare drop from this loot box. It's kind of like a similar thing. Like, oh my god, I got this really rare thing that's worth a bunch of money. I guess that's sort of the incentive there.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right. It's like about how the whole game is framed, um, which is that yeah, you expect to be getting your progression in game or whatever, and like yeah, you can get better at the game yourself as well. I do
Sure.
I do think there's some other factors which don't help it, which is things like it takes a long time to kit up, even when you're experienced. It takes a long
God,
time to load
yes.
in. It takes a very long time to load in, and
You
waiting for
know what?
players like, and that makes it less enjoyable in that sense because you can't just like bash out a bunch of raids or whatever. And so it makes the issues worse when it takes like 5 minutes to just load in and 5 minutes to kit up.
I was hanging out in someone's Discord, and then they were watching my stream, and they were like, "Why do you have a bunch of gear in your backpack?" So like, "Oh, I used to do that when I was new to the game." And I was just like, because I literally just want to click on the backpack equip and then like control clicked all the gear and then just hit enter. Because I swear the worst part of playing Tarkov is queuing in the raids, like late game.
Mhm.
Just like, "Oh, okay." Like, I load in, run for 2 minutes, get one tapped from another hill
Yeah,
from reserve, and it's like, "Okay, well, I guess I gotta spend another 6 minutes queuing up and getting up." It sucks, dude. Like, factory, dude. Last week, I think I mentioned this, I got to play 2 factory raids, and I probably spent the ma 60, 70% of time queuing up, you know? And
crazy.
it's like, it
It's actually
sucks, but,
crazy.
um, God, dude, if they could ever keep it all in game where you're like a DayZ style where you're just constantly in the game, oh, that
Yeah.
would be so amazing.
I
That would be
think,
so
like,
amazing.
that exact reason, and I realized this the other day, is the reason why I like Factory Scav so much, because there's no queue. You just go in straight away. There's no countdown timer. There's no waiting for
Oh,
players.
that's
You just
true.
bam straight in and you're playing, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. There's no kitting up, like nothing. It's just free. You
There's
just go in,
also
just free fun.
yes, there's no cost to you.
Mhm.
You're not risking anything. You
Yep.
just get up. You and this is what I love about Scav. Man, we could go in a different direction, but that's what I love about Scav is like it's the perfect place for someone to learn the game because it's like someone bought you a seat at the table and you get to play poker basically and you're still making meaningful decisions like man I could go for this really risky gunshots in the corner or I could just get out with my crappy kit, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a shame to me that there's a scav cooldown timer because I feel like if they removed the scav cooldown timer and tweaked some of the rewards you could get for playing scav, man, that would just be a great way for new players just to like not even new players, just like, someone doesn't have a lot of time to invest, someone that's, like, new to the game, someone that's learning the game, someone that wants to make a little bit of money, that's just, like, a great way for them to play the game, man, in my opinion. And,
Exactly.
we could go on that tangent, but I
It
don't
would be
wanna
good.
jump to
No,
there.
let's
Yeah,
not jump there. So there was a comment
yeah.
in chat that I think is quite cool, just
Yeah,
sort of
let's
talking about
go.
what we were doing before, which was they basically say like everything is far too plentiful. That's the problem. If food was scarce like fuel, if you had to go into raid simply to keep your character alive, then that would be a reason to keep playing. It's a survival game, but only when you're in the game. It could be a survival game all the time, which I think like this harkens back to a while back when people were talking about Struggleville and stuff, right? That like the game is better when you're kind of like struggling the whole time. And I think that's kind of again the issue with EFT in some sense is that like when you're not in raid, you're just stationary, and when you're in raid, whatever the cost of keeping your character alive is actually like very 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 small. It's like very minimal. And so unless you're like right at the beginning when you're brand new and like meds are expensive and stuff because you don't really have any rubles and things just it's just costly. Other than that, like once you get past that first stage, the survival element of the game basically just disappears. You just have to remember to take food and stuff with you because otherwise you might die by accident. I know I feel like there's something to that where just like the overall like the overheads of just running your life should be a consideration and you should have to think about it, and maybe it's not necessarily monetary, and that would sort of make it better in some ways, right? You can have all the money in the world.
Right.
It's like you might be like sat in a room full of gold bullion, but if you don't have any beans you're going to die. You know what I mean? You might be the richest man in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah.
but you're going to die if you don't have any food and water. And so if that stuff wasn't plentiful, then that would make people go in with with objectives. It's the same thing, right? We were talking about people making their own objectives, and you don't need daily and daily quests or that kind of stuff. If it's just like a bit
Mhm.
harder to stay alive, like it doesn't need to be like DayZ vanilla style, where it's just like you have to run along a railroad for 3 hours and you find 3 rocks, and then you manage to finally make a fire, and then you just die of hypothermia, and then you have to start again. Like it doesn't need to be like that, right? But
Right.
there's a scale, and we're here, and like dying in like 2 seconds is here, and I'm sure we could be somewhere further along it that like gives people more incentive, because that's the thing. It's just like talk about risk reward, but once you get to a certain point, like where's the loss, right? There's just like even losing your kit
Yeah,
doesn't matter,
yeah.
right? And again, this is all links back. It's all the connected, right? Because it's connected to what you were
It's all
saying about
connected.
permanence, right? It's about like the permanence of the hideout and
Mhm.
the stash and whatever. You're not really risking anything. As soon as it's in your stash, no one can touch it. It's just like completely impenetrable, whatever. Like imagine if you had to like buy security upgrades and that kind of thing, and like over time it would like degrade, or like scabs would come and like attack your hideout, and if you don't have your security up, you have to keep paying to like repair the door, repair whatever. Like maybe even like defend your hideout, that kind of thing. If you're like playing, if you're not playing, then like it'll degrade, or that kind of thing. I mean, I know it could end up being really really annoying because like if you have to go away for a week or something, you can't repair your hideout, then like everything gets busted. That would suck. But there's ways of making it work. There's ways of making it work, and those ways are probably not
Yeah.
straight off the top of my head in the middle of a podcast with church. But I think there's something in there. I feel like there's something in there. I don't have the answer, but there's something in that I like. There's something in that I like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. No, because you're injecting incentives to play the game, right? If if my like currently it's like you just click menus and that's like the game loop and outside of the raid. But if I have to like if I'm like directly incentivized to go into a raid to find a very specific item that I need for this specific part in my hideout that I've progressed, I've invested all this energy and love into, you know what I mean? It's like you're directly incentivized to go do that. And that would just be that's a quest right there, man. You don't have to write anything out. You just type the code and boom, you're good to go.
Exactly.
But
That's the best kind of game design is when like the
I
game
think so.
itself drives the player behavior without having to
Like,
actually say,
yes,
"Go
lay it
here,
out
do
for
this."
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yes, it's just yeah, it's great, man. You know, it's so interesting too because you were talking about Vanilla DayZ and how like it's like a proper like crazy hardcore survival game. You know, you can die from just like Rust. It has this mechanic where you can craft a sleeping bag, but you have to find like 30 cloth, right? You have to find a certain amount of resource. So instead of you dying going back to the beach, you can spawn on a sleeping bag. But like I said, it has a cost to it. You gotta have the right resources and you gotta craft it and you gotta place it, and there's certain limitations to it. Like it has a timer.
Mhm.
But I can like if you invest the time and go around the map and place a bunch of sleeping bags, you could have like all these different places you could spawn at. Now maybe one of them is like your base.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them is like you have a stash next to the sleeping bag where it has like a kit in it. Um, but it's like it's kind of a it's like not as sometimes it's like the reason I'm saying this, sometimes you want to die. Like you can actually open up the console and type in kill and you'll kill yourself. And then you could like let's say I hear rockets going off, like, you know, in the distance. I'm like, that's kinda in the direction of my base. Let me kill myself real quick and spawn in my sleeping bag in my base. You know what I mean? It's kinda interesting. You're like directly incentivized to die to use this mechanic to your advantage.
It's
I don't know.
fast
It's
travel.
pretty interesting. But Tarkov is like a hybrid between I think of it like CSGO and like a survival game because you're it's like survival because you're spawned on opposite sides, like we've talked about before, of the map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like and you're to survive, you have to go to the extract. I think it's like more of an extract game. I don't know how to describe it. And then you like you survive. Nothing you're permanent, nothing can happen to you. You won. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's weird.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
in-space
in
survival,
those
isn't it?
in those other two games, you're never truly survived. You're always surviving. You're constantly surviving. You've never like survived. That's it. Nothing can happen. You're good to go. Yeah, I don't know. I think that is kind of the difference there.
Yeah, I mean, there is a big difference to that, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, I like roguelikes and that kind of thing and survival games and
Yeah.
whatever, right? And it's just like, to me, the distinguishing feature seems to be how quickly do your resources tick down, or, you know, how hard is it to just maintain? And in
Yes.
EFT, maintenance is like almost non-existent. You know, the cost of healing
Almost.
and
Yeah.
whatever. So it's all about the raid, right? In the raid, it's, you know, you're having to like manage your resources, manage your rounds, manage
Right.
like make sure you don't run out of meds and you've got
Right.
enough nades and that your armor's still at full durability and all this kind of stuff. But outside the raid, there's not really anything that happens there except just like an exponential increase, and then everyone gets bored because it's just like and so I feel like that's like an important mechanic to make things feel difficult, or to actually just not even feel, just to make things harder, is to, and it's, this is actually what we've alluded to. This is the core concept that we've alluded to in the past with, you know, durability on graphics cards, or whatever, that kind of thing, right? And people saw this with the fuel crisis, which again is exactly the same thing. It's about the increase in the tick down of your resources to just maintain what you were doing, and that you know that rapidly increased very quickly, and people were like struggling, not able to run their farms, this kind of stuff. Like, I don't think that's necessarily bad, honestly. I don't think that's bad at all, because it forces people to
Conceptually,
make
yeah.
decisions conceptually, and as long as it's done in the right way, it could be, you know, it could be good. And like, it's another one of those things, like the more expensive stuff that you have, the more that you're gonna have to, spend money maintaining this stuff, repairing it, whatever. Like people who just don't really have anything in the hideout, well, it doesn't really cost much, right? Because it's just a crap bucket in the corner and like a pile of rubble. Where someone who's running like a full Bitcoin farm, you've got graphics cards for durability, you've got security on the front because potentially you're like more of a target, like all this kind of stuff. So it's almost like like progressive sort of flattening of the thing, and it's what we've talked about before about like punish the guys who are really experienced and are at the end game and whatever, and then don't punish the guys at the start. Well, at the start you've got nothing, so it doesn't matter, right? The resources don't need to tick down that
It
much. The
actually
more you
matters for
yeah, the
them.
more you build up, the more expensive it gets. It gets really expensive to maintain this stuff. Maybe you don't want to have 50 cards running continuously or whatever, because it's just too expensive to maintain all the security and whatnot, right? And I feel like there's definitely something in that, and that's like a leveler. That's like definitely a level. It's like you can push right to the end if you want. You can get all this progression if you want to, but it comes at a cost. There's got to be some kind of give and take, and that's what makes it kind of interesting. Um, I think that there's something in that too, which could be quite good. But it's just like, yeah, there's no real like tick down in resources, which why people just continue to just make money. Once they get to that stage, it's just like just straight up, just like 100 mil. Once you make like 30 clear mil and you don't really have that much to upgrade in the hideout, like maybe like a certain, you don't really need solar particularly, but like once you're close to the end of the hideout and you've made 30 million, you're never going bust basically because you've got enough experience in the game not to, because you're not just going to die like 20, yeah, 200 times in a row. It's realistically not going to happen, and you've got like the means to just make more money. And so I don't know of any player that's gone bankrupt after getting to like 30 and having the stuff upgraded. So it's like that's the point at which you then need to like level off that tail and add some real drags to the things that people are doing in order to keep it interesting, because without adversity and without things being challenging, people do lose interest, because the reason why people are there in the first place is because you overcome those challenges and actually earn something and you feel good about it and you're like,
Yeah.
man, yes.
Yeah.
And then when there's no challenge, it becomes easy, it becomes boring, and people leave. And I think that's fixes a lot of things with the game. It's kind of gives you more incentives and stuff. I know. I think there's a lot of cool things that can be done. I mean, this kind of like idea of just getting players to go into raid to make their own quests, and then increasing the sort of difficulty of just like maintaining things. I think there's a few small tweaks like that would really
It
help
would go a
longevity.
long way,
I
man.
think so.
It would go a long way. It would
I really
go,
do.
yeah.
I really do. Oh, you know what? I actually can't believe that we've been speaking for like an hour and 10 minutes. It's like literally like bam, because there's so much has happened. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Was there were there any topics that you wanted to just kind of like finish off on before we close out? Is there anything in particular that you
Um,
wanted to just like stands out that we've like missed out? We can just kind of slot in for the
I
last like 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
yeah, I got a couple things. So back to that Russian female podcast of Nikita.
Mhm.
2 more notes. Nikita wants to improve insurance part. He cannot, or sorry, he want the translation's rough, so forgive me. He wants connect insurance with scavs, scav karma, uh, insurance equals scavs.
I love
Scav
that, by the way.
reputation will control on insurance. Yeah, I mean this is exactly what we were talking about, right? Giving you an incentive to go play. Now you use your scav to go hunt down your insurance. I something like that sounds good.
What are
I
the
don't know if it'll
people's
work.
dude? You could be paid to go and get other people's
Oh,
insurance.
that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool. Like you hire a scav, dude. That'd be so cool. Yeah. Conceptually, I like it. I don't know if it will work practically.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing was want to add new events like Bitcoin and even fuel crisis. He didn't like the situation when players farm Bitcoin for 3 to 4 months. He said it was like a utopia, like communism, and they try to balance it in this event, the Tarcoin event,
What
as
does
an
he mean
example.
farmed it for like, as in like just farmed it at like 800K?
That that period where
Yeah.
Bitcoin was at a high, he really didn't like that because everyone was just, stonks, baby. Everyone was
Yeah.
just making money, dude. It's huge inflation. I guess I don't know if that's technically inflation, but yeah, so it's interesting. He's aware of it and all, and sounds like
Yeah.
they're heading in like a direction with this Tarbank. I'm excited, dude, for the new crypto and what that could mean. We'll see what that does. As long as they don't make it an actual like they're entering the crypto market. As long as they don't actually do that, I will be fine. But if they actually do that, I'm gonna be so mad at them, dude.
As in what sense? As in like
Like they're in the blockchain now. Like Tarbank is in the blockchain, baby.
Like
Let's go,
for real.
dude.
Like they're like,
Like
okay,
for
we're
real. Like
adding
it
it to
has a
the
real
game.
dollar.
We're adding it to
Yeah,
the game. We're also doing an ICO at the same time. Like it's gonna be
yes,
in
it has a
real
real like
world.
yes. If they do that, I would be so mad at them, dude.
Oh,
I
it'd
will
be
never
so
forgive them.
funny. It'd be so funny if they did that. I don't even know what the implications of that. I don't even
It's
begin.
really bad. Really bad. I can tell you that much. Really bad. That's a bad idea. I shouldn't even spoke it into existence.
Yeah, you've
Oh
cursed us
my
now.
god.
Oh my goodness.
I heard on ScavTalk that Nikita is going to, and then it happens.
Yeah. Not even microtransactions. It's just macro transactions. It's just expensive. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing micro about
Oh
it.
my god.
Funding
Can you
Nikita's vast
imagine?
empire.
You go
ESG
into
coin.
raid, you go into raid, you get a graphics card, and you put it in your virtual graphics machine, and it prints out Bitcoin, and then you just go onto the market and then sell it for dollars
Oh.
or euros. You get paid in your bank account. It's like that'd be so
Yeah, and then
crazy.
it only works if and it's a whole thing based around like
It's
it only
just,
works if EFTs open, you know?
it's awful idea.
And
Okay.
we all, you know, voluntarily connect ourselves to the Russian botnet. You know, that's just how it goes. Mining Nikita's profits for him.
Nikita's just raking in the profits. Dude.
Yeah. We get a little slice into our stash in EFT, so none of us care because we're all just, you know, addicted. We've got the drip in. Ugh, give us the progression, Nikita. Come
Just
on.
one more raid. Just one more raid.
Make the game harder. Make me suffer.
We actually had a good question about that in our which by the way, guys, we probably next week, depending on what happens, we'll do a another viewer call in, if you will. You can if you want to send us a message, go to anchor.fm/scavtalk, and there's a section there for message. You can send us a message and maybe you'll get featured on the show. And whatever you want to talk about, whatever something interesting you want to say, like just have at it, dude. Like we're game for anything. Um because someone mentioned something like that, how the psychology of like Tarkov, like yeah, I won't get into it, but it's super interesting. So maybe
Okay.
we'll get into that another episode.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
But yeah,
I guess like just before we close, like we didn't actually end up going back and touching about wipe. I suppose we could just like say a few words about what do you
I'll
think
be
then?
glad when it's over, dude.
What do you
I
think? Do
cannot.
you think it's gonna wipe though? You
I
were on team
I
no
pref-
wipe though, weren't you?
I was on team no wipe. I'm I don't know, man. I don't know.
Who knows?
I think it's more likely that it's going to wipe based off these past couple events, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
want it to
was
wipe.
like
Don't get me wrong. I'm dying for it to wipe.
I think now definitely. Like before, it was actually funny because I was on team white, but I wasn't sure if I wanted it to, if that made sense, even though I
Mhm.
thought it was kind of going to. And I was like much more 50-50, whereas now it's just like, come on, dude, let's just get it. Let's just get it. Now that like I was like, every event, I was just like, maybe wipe? Yeah, probably wipe. And then it's just like, okay, now you can make like 12 million rubles a raid, every raid. I was like, I mean, come on, it has to be now. Like, this doesn't make any sense
That's kinda what
otherwise. This
I
is
think,
completely
man.
insane. It's just chaos.
The
It is
market is
chaos.
so inflated. I had a Plex I looted, a Plex,
Yeah,
Giga, a piece of Plex.
yeah.
It sold for 100K.
I was trying to buy food on the market, and it's like 40,000 rubles.
It's
I
insane,
almost
dude.
feel like maybe wouldn't this be hilarious, right? If he just basically makes like it's so easy to make money,
It's a soft wipe.
and then all the trader prices just start going up and up and up and up, and everyone's just like it's like you know Weimar Republic
Oh,
from
I
like
see.
whatever, like back in the day, people are carrying like barrels full of rubles around. It's like you're trying to pay for stuff, and it's just like you know
I just
what
want the Salewa, please.
one Salewa is like 3 money
Yeah.
cases full of rubles. Like it's just like 0, 0, 0, 0 on everything, and like the scav
Yeah.
extract just gets more and more and more, and all the trader prices just get higher and higher. Like it just like I can imagine them just doing something crazy like that too. It's just like it's just hyperinflation happens, and it's just completely mental. Because that's sort of what's happening. Like yeah, dude, I was trying to buy like food, and I ended up buying like a can of herring for like 40K. And I was like, this
Jesus.
is insane. This is actually insane. So I think it probably is going to wipe soon. I mean, I don't know. Well, it's probably
But
going to be early
that's
next week, if anything, but no one really knows.
yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. because I feel like, okay, this is my final saying. With the scav karma and everything we talked about incentives in gaming, it makes the most sense to test scav karma. Like logically speaking, that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But obviously, we don't know what's going on behind BSG. They may have different plans, and maybe something may be going on. I don't know. You know, that in itself is like a reason to wipe, in my opinion. The economy stuff, maybe, I don't know, but mainly the scav karma to me seems like
Yeah. To me, it's a
the
combination of scout
biggest reason.
karma and the timing that we spoke about the streets push out and then the wipe now lighthouse, because you can
Mhm.
make it. You can add a map without wipe. I think that's completely fine. So you can
Yeah.
do a wipe
Oh, yeah.
now. There's a new mechanic. You add a new map with no new mechanic. And that's I guess there's inertia or whatever. No, maybe that doesn't need a wipe. Inertia probably doesn't need a wipe, honestly. So then you bring
I
you bring
don't
out
think so.
lighthouse and you bring out inertia, and that's fine. And then you bring out streets like in the early part of
Right.
like the following year, and then it's enough time, and then it's like decent for the wipe cycle, and then it's fine. So I think just in terms of like timing and in terms of scav karma, I think it makes sense to do it. That
Yeah.
was kind of like the main reason that I had for it, and like I think the economy plays some part of it. I did actually see Pestily was talking about, he was going like, oh yeah,
Oh,
wipe it
yeah,
like
I did
must be
see
soon,
that.
and he was saying like in the past they had done one event that broke everything, and they were like, we're so sorry, and like we're not ready yet. So it took them like a month to do the wipe, and they just like completely screwed the economy, and that was it. Everyone just had to like make do for a month. So he was like, maybe that happens, but I don't know.
On that note, did you see that, leaked email that came out? So it was on
I
Reddit, I think,
don't think so.
and it was like it was the sale, the
Oh yeah,
25th through the 26th.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, someone was like, "Hey, I got this email," and then people were like, "Hmm, looks sketchy," and then other people were like, "No, I'm like an emissary. I got it as well. This is probably happening." The next day, it comes out officially, publicly from BSG, and it says, "In anticipation of the upcoming patch." Because the original email was like, "In celebration of the patch," or something
Yeah.
like that. So I kind of feel like they were planning to wipe this week, like yesterday or today even, but they sort of had to change gears. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see, man.
exactly, exactly. Well, in the meanwhile, we just have to enjoy the fog.
Have you played an actual raid and not a money raid,
No,
a handout raid? No,
no,
okay. I
I've
played
not.
one.
I've not
It
played a real
was
raid in the fog.
yeah, it was interesting. I think it was like, I'm kind of over it. We
Yeah.
all had thermal. I played a Tarkov reporter and some of his
Okay.
buddies,
Okay. I
so
think
we
you have
got
to
we
play
were on
thermal.
reserve.
I think you just have to. It's silly otherwise, right?
It's sort of interesting. Yeah, it's you basically have to. I don't know.
Good time to go play labs, though. That might be what
Yeah,
I do,
labs,
honestly.
factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, labs, factory are all good.
Mm,
So,
exactly. Exactly.
all right. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Been a heck of a show. Lots of comments in the live chat, so I'll have to get back on those. And yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
Well, see you later.